We'll get to do it again the next day. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, good morning everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Amira Mallah, and I'm here to represent the Reinvest in Sacramento Coalition, a coalition of 34 Palestinian rights, environmental health, immigration justice, racial and economic justice activists, faith groups, and unions. Our organizations are driven by a common purpose to take care of our communities, to address systemic oppression, and to support people to thrive. We came together today to call on the City of Sacramento, our city, to commit to setting criteria to divest public funds from all forms of harm by incorporating socially responsible investment language into its current investment policy. We affirm that profiting off of human suffering is not profitable for the people of Sacramento, and we want an investment policy that sets clear criteria to prevent investment of our public funds in severe human rights violations, such as the genocide and apartheid in Palestine, or the genocide in Sudan or the Congo, in weapons manufacturers that are profiting off of global conflict, and in companies perpetuating systems of mass incarceration and immigration detention and surveillance, which themselves include severe rights violations like prison labor, torture, and abuse in ICE detention centers. The city has already taken leadership in this area by divesting from fossil fuels and tobacco, and in recognition of the widespread harm that they cause. We are asking the city to commit formally to upholding these values and to additionally address human rights impacts that affect our communities and that also affect people around the world by including socially responsible investment criteria in the investment policy. It is the role of local government to hold corporations accountable when they're committing abuses and rights violations that affect their constituents. We want investments that prioritize our well-being, like accessible housing, healthcare, education, youth empowerment, and supportive resources that meet people's needs rather than criminalize their struggles. Today we'll hear from Reinvest in Sacramento Coalition member organizations about the importance of socially responsible investment and the impact of investments in corporations that are facilitating systemic oppression and mass murder, as well as from Councilmembers Vang and Roger Dickinson, who demonstrated great leadership and responsiveness in championing this policy. First off, I'll introduce Sarah Al-Zanoun from Palestine American League.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Al-Zanoun, and I am with the Palestine American League. I am half Palestinian and half Venezuelan. I have been a resident of Sacramento for over 30 years, and I have a background in public service, working at the Child Abuse Prevention Center. Then I worked at the Sacramento Works Job Center, and I've spent the last 8 years working for the state of California. I am here to discuss how we can move forward with divesting from corporations that enable severe harm so we can focus on what truly matters, investing in our community. Currently, we have city funds and companies complicit in apartheid, immigration detention, surveillance, labor abuse, and mass incarceration. The current city investments do not reflect our values. They instead cause suffering and destruction that deeply affect families like mine, which have suffered at the hands of weapons made in our city. It's time to reinvest in life and divest from death. Sacramento residents need to see that their tax dollars should not go to profiteers of genocide, apartheid, war crimes abroad, nor support domestic terror by ICE here at home. The public revenues that the city collects, including those from me and other civil servants, are being used to fund weapons manufacturers and other corporations that use technology to enable harm. These include Lockheed Martin and Caterpillar. We tend to have a cognitive dissonance because we don't see the faces of those children we harm. We do not have to witness the last harrowing seconds that they have to endure before a lethal weapon hits them or an ICE agent takes them from their mothers. People in power only seem to believe your pain when it looks like theirs. Their empathy has borders, its skin tones and papers. They love people selectively. It's only humanity when the person shedding tears looks like a reflection they see in the mirror. How would you feel if your own tax dollars or money that you help collect for the state of California were used to fund the bullets and weapons to kill your family abroad in Gaza? That's my reality. Here are the names of some of my family members killed. Ahmed Al-Zanoun, age 16. Shaza Al-Zanoun, age 16. Hana Al-Zanoun, age 15. Karima Al-Zanoun, age 14. Saja Al-Zanoun, age 10. And Yasin, who was only a newborn. These are 7 of 57 members of my family that were killed. You may say that this has nothing to do with the city of Sacramento, but you have a great say in policy choices. You have a say in city investments and divestments. And when all is said and done, you have a choice today to stick up for humanity and a choice not to. We hope you make the right choice today. Thank you.
All right, so next we will have Christopher Camilo Carvajal from Decarcerate Sacramento.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christopher Camilo Carvajal. I'm the Program and Campaign Coordinator for Decarcerate Sacramento, and I'm also appointed by the county to sit on the Public Safety and Justice Agency Advisory Committee. For years, our organization has worked to challenge systems of incarceration and advocate for the conditions that allow communities to thrive. And while much of our work takes place at the county level, the question before the city today is one that affects us all. What value should our public dollars reflect? Because public money is not neutral. Every budget and every investment is a statement about the future we choose to build. And the systems that profit from violence abroad are often the same systems that profit from harm here at home. The very companies that enable war, militarization, surveillance, detention, and the ongoing genocide of Palestinians are often the same corporations that profit from incarcerating our communities, monitoring our neighborhoods, displacing families like my own, exploiting workers, and extracting wealth from those struggling to survive. These are not separate issues. They are connected by a common logic that human lives can be sacrificed in pursuit of profit. For those of us who organize against mass incarceration, we know this logic all too well. Mass incarceration is not simply a set of policies, it is an economy. It is a network of corporations, contractors, surveillance technologies, and financial interests that generate wealth from confinement, criminalization, and human suffering. Communities are criminalized, families are separated, people are caged, while corporations profit from detention, electronic monitoring, surveillance technologies, and the expansion of punishment itself. And just as communities around the world are rejecting the idea that anyone should profit from war and occupation, we reject the idea that anyone should profit from incarceration and our government-sponsored suffering. Because cages and systemic neglect should never be an investment strategy. And here in Sacramento, we know these systems are not abstract. We know what it means to live in a city where hundreds of millions of dollars are invested each year into the Sacramento Police Department and other carceral actors, while too many of our neighbors remain unhoused, struggle to access health care, and are forced to make impossible choices just to survive. The same logic that tells us we must accept endless investment in policing while communities go without is the same logic that says public dollars should generate returns from incarceration, surveillance, and violence. We reject that logic. We should reject that logic. Whether someone is being bombed overseas, detained at the border, pushed into homelessness, placed under surveillance, or locked in a jail cell, there are corporations positioned to benefit from that suffering. That is why responsible investment matters. Public dollars should not be invested in industries that depend on violence, incarceration, displacement, exploitation, and death. Our tax dollars should be invested in the conditions that allow people to live with dignity, and those include housing, healthcare, education, environmental sustainability, and thriving communities. At Decarcerate Sacramento, we believe that true safety does not come from cages, surveillance, nor punishment. It comes from having our Mets need. I'm going to repeat that one more time. It comes from having our Mets need. Or needs met, excuse me. I'm very passionate right now. And we believe our public institutions reflect that principle. Because the struggles for true justice, whether against mass incarceration, immigrant detention, environmental destruction, exploitation, or genocide, are deeply interconnected. We are proud to stand alongside our partners in Reinvest Sacramento and everyone fighting to ensure that Sacramento's public resources are aligned with justice, dignity, and collective care. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have Moise Mir from the Asian American Liberation Network.
Good morning. Thank you everyone for joining us today for the historic policy that the City of Sacramento must pass at the 2 p.m. meeting today. Also happening today at 5 p.m. Is the city's budget, which as advocates we know and understand to be a statement of values, but before that, earlier today at 2 p.m., the policy that we're talking about is going deeper than that. It's about leadership. It's not just our budget as a statement of values, but our investments, and the City of Sacramento taking the position of leadership to inventory. What is it responsible for? What are investments being used for? What are our investments being used for? And how are they being leveraged in ways that are counter to the city's own goals, that are counter to the exact priorities that we are trying to build, investing in our communities, creating safety, creating environmental protection and safeguarding and sustainability. When we have investments in fossil fuels, that undoes the work that the city is doing on climate policy. When we have investments in the federal government's expansion of surveillance and detention and immigration industry, that runs counter to the city's goals. As advocates, as organizations, a number of us have been working on immigration policy alongside council members to establish and strengthen sanctuary policy to make sure that every person in Sacramento is safe from the harmful actions of our federal government. And so taking this policy today strengthens and reaffirms that commitment. There are already pre-existing commitments to climate, tobacco, and making sure that the city is not invested in pollution, but today's policy is an expansion of that. Today's policy is a commitment to make sure that war profiteering, private prisons, for-profit prisons, a phrase that should not exist in the American language but unfortunately does, are something that the city of Sacramento has no business in, literally is not invested in. And so I thank you so much for coming today, for joining us. I hope that this passes at 2 p.m. This has been a policy that has been long coming, for years in the making, and this is a historic moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Ann Hilborn, a member of CAPS UAW Local 1115.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ann Hilborn. As Amira said, I am a member of CAPS UAW, which is the local for state scientists here in California. And I'm also an environmental scientist, and I'm a member of Reinvest in Sacramento. So I wear many hats, and I'm going to try to cover why I support this policy in just a few minutes. So as a civil servant, I am very aware that where a government puts its money is an expression of its values and its priorities. And this goes for investments as well as for budgets. And so that's why I'm excited that this policy will better align the city's investments with my values, the values of many state scientists, and with the values of Sacramento. Another role that I have is being a labor organizer. And as such, improving the working conditions across all sectors is a major priority. Child labor, forced labor, and the exploitation of incarcerated workers are crimes against individuals and communities and undermine workers' rights and wages around the world. Ensuring our tax dollars do not go to support companies who are eroding labor conditions is a fundamental step in protecting the rights of all workers. And while exploitative labor practices impacts mostly workers, increasing surveillance infrastructure threatens all of us. Many state scientists are part of communities that are being targeted by these surveillance systems and are concerned about eroding privacy, the expansion of the carceral state, and the fundamental threats to our constitutional rights. Over the past few years, companies such as IBM have hosted surveillance infrastructure for ICE and for Customs and Border Protection. It is imperative that our tax dollars are not used to support companies that are producing these systems of surveillance that are terrorizing communities in California and around the world. Just like all Californians, my colleagues and myself do not lead one-issue lives. So I'm glad this proposed policy is so fast Sacramento and pushes our city to put its money where our values are. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we'll hear from Trinity Smith from Fossil Free California.
Hi everyone, my name is Trinity Smith. I am a member of SEIU Local 1000 and I'm here representing Fossil Free California today in support of this socially responsible investment policy because it is time to send a strong message to the fossil fuel industry. The fossil fuel corporation's business as usual is to extract, exploit, and harm people, the planet, play out acutely as fossil fuel companies continue to profit off of the senseless US-Israeli war on Iran, Lebanon, and the ongoing genocide in Palestine. Corporations like BP, Shell, ConocoPhillips, Valero, ExxonMobil, and Chevron have been able to rake in billions of dollars in profits as a result of this war. These profits come at a high cost through the horrific human toll to innocent civilians. They also are effectively stolen from indigenous peoples, their relatives, and ancestral lands, also from my family and every other family in Sacramento through the exorbitant higher prices on food, gas, and other essentials that we need to survive. Divesting from fossil fuels sends a clear message to revoke the social license for fossil fuel industries. When funds like the city own or own fossil fuel stocks, they contribute to the veneer of legitimacy that lets fossil fuel companies keep expanding operations even while driving climate crisis, war, and years of human rights violations. When they divest, and this inclusion to recommit to divesting from publicly traded fossil fuel corporations, this provides greater security to the city's investments by removing them from a volatile, destructive industry and investing in the families that live here now and in future generations. Divestment from these and other corporations in the socially responsible investment policy is a clear way to fund what can help heal our communities and protect our future. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear now from David Mandel from Jewish Voice for Peace.
Good morning. Thank you, everybody. I'll be quick. Jewish Voice for Peace is a national organization based on mobilizing Jews consistent with our tradition of justice and peace, and in solidarity with the Palestinian people who are now facing unprecedented genocide in Palestine. There is a myth, I think, that there's American Jewish establishments and of our legacy organizations that have moved so far to the right that they are now identified with the folks in our government and in other governments who support genocide, who support the destruction of the planet, who support mass incarceration, and who are anti-immigrants. We represent, and we are a fast-growing organization, we represent what I'm confidently saying now is a growing majority of American Jews that reject what I also confidently believe is a shrinking minority that supports that stereotyped version of what Judaism stands for. And so, of course, we support an ethical investment policy from the city of Sacramento. And I just wanted to add my voice to register that. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from Councilmember Vang.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. First, I want to thank my colleague, Councilmember Dickinson, our city treasurer, and especially our community activists and leaders and members of the Reinvest and the SAC Coalition who have worked alongside us for the past 6 to 8 months to actually bring us to this moment. I also want to take this moment to thank Susan Kang, my Director of Policy, who helped carry this work alongside the community. Nothing ever gets done by one elected official. It is truly your staff and the community members that carry this work. And so I want to give a shout out to Susan and also Brian DeBlanc, Chief of Staff in Councilmember Dickinson's office as well. So today, all of you heard from the advocates and community members on how important it is to divest from companies harming our communities and enabling severe human rights violation. From fossil fuels to tobacco, from companies involved in mass detention and operating private prisons to companies producing war weapons. This amendment to the city investment policy is the result of prior organizing, community engagement, and advocacy from residents who believe that public dollars should reflect our public values. And the city has already begun this work. In 2021, we divested from fossil fuel at the request of former council member Katie Valenzuela and from tobacco companies in 2019. The social responsible investment amendment introduced today at 2 p.m. is a response to the advocacy from the Reinvest in Sacramento Coalition, and it goes one step further. The policy actually formalized the criteria to divest from companies enabling harm practices and in systems. At its core, this effort is really about alignment and accountability. Our community has been clear. The way we invest public funds should align with our values, and we need to uphold as a city the priorities of our residents, the people we represent. Residents expect their government to be responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars, not only in terms of financial returns, but also in the ways in which our investment impact people, communities, and the world around us. This policy recognizes that investment decisions are not value neutral. Where we choose to invest sends a message about what we prioritize and what we are willing to support. For many Sacramento residents, particularly young people, communities of color, and immigrant communities, there has been a growing call for transparency, accountability, and investment that contributes to a more equitable future. This addition to our city investment policy is a response to that. And today is a very important milestone for our city. I am so proud to stand alongside everyone who helped make it possible, this incredible coalition, diverse coalition, to put this policy forward. But this policy must outlive us. This policy has to outlive us. Mayors and council members come and go, but the people who actually sustain this work is the community. And it's the community that will demand that any current and future elected bodies be held accountable to this policy. Just as important, these protections are no longer dependent on who occupies mayor or council seat, but it's really about making sure that the city holds itself accountable. By memorializing these values into policy, Sacramento is ensuring our commitment to socially responsible investing endures beyond just one single elected official or two elected officials, but that policy actually matters for the long terms in terms of accountability. As you all know, Sacramento has always been a city that strives to put its value into action. And again, I am so proud of the partnership that we've made together by memorializing the city divestment and social responsible investment policy. I am proud of Sacramento willing to lead, but I am most proud of the advocates standing next to me, of the community residents that came to Councilmember Roger Dickinson and I and said, we need to update our investment policy. And I am so proud of the work that they did together. And also I see John Colbert, our treasurer, as well. Hi, John, who was part of this critical work to get us to this moment. And so thank you so much, everyone, for your hard work. And I look forward to working with the community to make sure that the mayor and council and that our government upholds this policy investment. And with that, I will introduce Councilmember Dickinson, who is the chair of Budget and Audit.
Well, good morning and thank you. And thanks to Councilmember Vang. I want to, first of all, recognize her leadership and that of her staff with respect to this issue. I also want to recognize the work of those who are here today and the activists who have worked with us over the months to develop a policy that frankly amounts to common sense. And that is simply aligning our values with our investments. We're making here a pledge to be consistent in what we do in investing our money with what we believe ought to be the policy, not just of the city, but of the broader world. This is an opportunity for us in Sacramento to make a statement, that we are embracing investment that will be socially responsible, that will avoid profiteering for those who are doing so at the cost and the risk of many, many people around the world and even here in our own country. It is a commitment to the values that we hold most high, of making sure that we develop a climate that can be sustained over time for generations to come, to make sure that we're not directly or indirectly supporting gun violence across our country and more broadly across the globe. It is a statement that we are willing to stand up and be heard. We are willing to use not just our voices, but our dollars to make sure that we are building a bigger, better, brighter future, not just for Sacramento, but for our nation and for the world. This is something that I hope our colleagues on the council will see, just as we do, as something that makes the statement that we must take in order to represent to our constituents as well as to the broader public that the city of Sacramento is committed in each and every way to realizing the policies that we hold most dear. It is simply an opportunity to stand up, to speak out, and to say that as far as we are concerned in the city of Sacramento, we are committed to an inclusive future without violence, without harm to our environment, and with the opportunity for all that is so important to realizing, ultimately, reaching a more perfect union. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes our press conference for today. We look forward to seeing the policy pass at 2 p.m. And if anyone is interested in doing interviews with any of our speakers or the council members, please come forward and we can arrange that. Thank you.